The grocery store was packed, the checkout lines moving at a steady pace until she arrived. A well-dressed woman, dripping in entitlement, slammed her items onto the counter, her eyes filled with impatience. The young cashier, polite as ever, greeted her with a smile, but it was immediately met with a scoff. Can you hurry up? I don't have all day, the woman snapped, rolling her eyes as the cashier scanned each item with care. Other customers in line exchanged uneasy glances, sensing the tension growing. The cashier, clearly flustered but still maintaining her composure, apologized and continued working as quickly as possible. But that wasn't enough. The woman huffed loudly, criticizing everything: the speed, the service, even the cashier's appearance. People watched in silence, unsure whether to step in or stay out of it. Then, just when it seemed like the humiliation couldn't get any worse, a voice from behind cut through the air. That's enough. The rude shopper froze. The other customers turned. Standing there was a man who had been waiting patiently in line, quietly observing the entire exchange. But there was something different about him, something in the way he spoke, in the authority behind his voice. The woman narrowed her eyes, clearly unamused. "And who do you think you are?" she scoffed. What she didn't realize was that this wasn't just any customer. And she was about to learn a lesson she would never forget. The woman crossed her arms, glaring at the man who had dared to challenge her. The entire store seemed to hold its breath, the beeping of the registers and the distant murmur of shoppers fading into the background. The cashier, cheeks flushed with embarrassment, kept her head down, focusing on scanning the remaining items as quickly as possible. "Excuse me?" the woman scoffed, her voice dripping with condescension. "I don't remember asking for your opinion." The man didn't flinch. He stood calmly, his sharp eyes locked on hers, his posture unwavering. There was something about him, something that radiated confidence, but not arrogance. The people around them watched intently, some pretending to browse nearby shelves just to stay within earshot. "You didn't ask," he said smoothly. "But I think it's about time someone told you." The woman let out a short, mocking laugh. "Told me what? That I expect decent service for my money? That I don't have time to wait around for," she gestured vaguely toward the cashier, "whatever this is?" The insult hung in the air, like a thick, suffocating fog. The young cashier's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the last item, a carton of milk, scanning it with forced focus. The total flashed on the screen, but no one was looking at it. All eyes were still on the confrontation unfolding before them. The man exhaled slowly, shaking his head. "No," he said. "That you've forgotten what it means to be decent to another human being." A hush fell over the crowd. Even the employees at the other registers had stopped what they were doing, sneaking glances in their direction. The woman's lips curled into a smirk. "Oh, please. Spare me the lecture. Do you know who I am?" The man remained silent for a beat before responding, his tone cool. "I don't need to. I already know everything I need to." Something about the way he said it made the woman's smirk falter for the briefest moment. It was as if he wasn't just calling her out, he was seeing through her. The people around them shifted, sensing that there was more to this stranger than met the eye. A voice suddenly broke the silence. "I think we all know who you are." It came from an older woman standing a few feet away, a shopping basket in her hands. She wasn't looking at the rude shopper, she was looking at the cashier, offering a small, sympathetic smile. "You're the one who always helps me find things when I can't reach them," she continued, nodding toward the young cashier. "The one who greets me by name. Who remembers that I like paper bags instead of plastic." Another customer, a middle-aged man in a work uniform, stepped forward. "Yeah, and you're the one who helped my son get his first job here last summer." One by one, voices joined in. A mother with a toddler on her hip mentioned how the cashier always distracted her fussy child with stickers from behind the counter. A teenager whispered to his friend that she had once covered a few cents for him when he was short on change. The rude shopper's eyes darted around as more people spoke up, defending the very person she had tried to belittle. The weight of their words seemed to press in on her, chipping away at her confidence. The man in line took a step closer, his voice calm but firm. You walked in here thinking you could treat someone like they were beneath you. But you didn't realize that you were insulting someone who's been nothing but kind to this community. The only person who looks small right now is you. The woman's face twisted in frustration. Oh, give me a break. None of this changes the fact that I'm the customer, and I expect respect. The man cut in. Respect is earned. And right now, you're fresh out. A few people murmured in agreement. The cashier, still silent, swallowed hard, her eyes glistening. It was rare for someone in her position to receive this kind of public support. Usually, people just looked the other way. The woman shifted uncomfortably, the weight of the moment settling in. But just as it seemed like she might storm out in a huff, something unexpected happened. A store employee appeared from the back, walking briskly toward them. He wasn't just any employee, he was the manager. And he was heading straight for the scene. The crowd held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The manager strode forward, his expression unreadable. The crowd, now fully invested in the unfolding drama, instinctively stepped aside to give him space. The rude shopper straightened her posture, as if expecting him to take her side. After all, she was the customer, wasn't she? Customers were always right. The young cashier, however, stiffened, her hands gripping the counter. She had seen this play out before, complaints leading to scoldings, or worse, threats to her job. Her heart pounded as she braced herself for what was coming. The manager stopped in front of the counter, taking in the scene, the shaken cashier, the quiet yet firm man who had stood up for her, and the entitled woman who was still holding her ground, arms crossed tightly over her chest. Is there a problem here? He asked, his voice calm but laced with authority. The rude shopper wasted no time jumping in. Yes, actually. Your cashier is completely incompetent. She's slow, she's unprofessional, and she had the nerve to be rude to me. I expect better service in a place like this. Honestly, I don't know how you allow people like her to work here. The words hung heavy in the air, but the manager's expression didn't change. Instead, he turned to the cashier, his voice softer. Is that true? The cashier hesitated. She could feel all eyes on her, waiting for her response. But before she could even open her mouth, the man who had defended her spoke up. That's not what happened, he said, his voice steady. She was polite the entire time. The only person being rude here is your customer. The manager's gaze shifted to the others in line. Can anyone confirm that? Immediately, the older woman with the shopping basket nodded. She did nothing wrong. If anything, she showed more patience than most of us would have. The mother with the toddler chimed in. I saw the whole thing. She was just doing her job, and this woman treated her like dirt. One by one, people spoke up, their voices growing stronger, more certain. The rude shopper's confident facade cracked slightly. She hadn't expected an entire store of strangers to rally against her. The manager finally turned back to her. It seems like we have a different version of events. And based on what I'm hearing, I believe my employee. The woman scoffed. Oh, so you're just going to take her side? This is ridiculous. I spend money here all the time. Is this how you treat paying customers? The manager didn't blink. Actually, I believe in treating all people with respect. That includes my employees. If you can't do the same, then maybe this isn't the store for you. A stunned silence followed. The woman's mouth opened, then closed, as if searching for a retort that wouldn't come. The man beside her, the one who had spoken up first, crossed his arms. Seems fair to me, he said. The rude shopper's face burned with embarrassment. She glanced around, realizing that there was no one left on her side. No sympathetic nods. No murmurs of agreement. Just judgment. Without another word, she grabbed her purse and stormed out, her heels clicking sharply against the tile. The automatic doors slid open, then shut behind her, leaving only an awkward silence in her wake. For a moment, no one moved. Then, almost as if on cue, A quiet ripple of applause spread through the crowd. It wasn't loud, but it was meaningful. The cashier let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The manager turned to her, his expression softening. "Are you okay?" She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Yeah, I think so." The man who had defended her gave her a reassuring smile. "You handled that with a lot of grace. More than most people would have." She let out a small, shaky laugh. "I didn't feel very graceful." "Well, you were," he said simply. The manager clapped a hand on her shoulder. "Take a minute if you need to. And if anyone ever treats you like that again, you come straight to me." "Understood?" She nodded again, this time with a bit more confidence. As the customers slowly returned to their shopping, the man gathered his groceries and moved toward the exit. But just as he reached the door, he heard the cashier's voice behind him. "Wait," he turned. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded. "Anytime." And with that, he was gone. The rest of the shift passed in a blur, but something had shifted. The young cashier felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted. The rude customer may have left with nothing but embarrassment, but the kindness of strangers had given her something far more valuable, a reminder that there were still good people in the world. And sometimes, when you least expect it, those good people step up and remind others what true respect looks like.